I'm back. This video will be covering some obscure game genres you guys might have not heard of, and almost all of them don't feature games that have mainstream success compared to stuff like shooters or platformers. These are by no means bad games, just ones that are unknown. All of the games will be in the description. Starting off, we have the least obscure genre in this list, idle games. If you've watched my videos before, you'll know I'm a huge fan of these. Idle games revolve around the idea of getting a number to go up. Whether it be cookies, money, or just generic points, you want to get that number up as high as you can. You accomplish this in a variety of ways depending on the game. In the classic cookie clicker, which is likely the reason you've heard of this genre, you start out by just clicking the cookie. Simple enough. You click on it a few times and quickly get enough cookies to purchase your first upgrade in the store, a cursor. This is what defines the idle game genre. This cursor will now click for you once every 10 seconds, so in theory, you could now beat the entire game without ever having to click on the cookie again, just allowing your idle upgrades to take over for you. If you keep clicking, you'll eventually get to 100 cookies, allowing you to buy your first upgrade. Buying this will double the efficiency of both your cursors and your manual clicks, now giving you 2 cookies per manual click and 1 cookie every 5 seconds from your cursors. Very broadly, this is the idea that all idle games stem from. Get points, buy idle upgrades, and then buy upgrades for those upgrades. This is a pretty huge genre that has tens of thousands of games, so there's a lot of variety in how these mechanics are used. In Reactor Idle, you build a nuclear power plant to get as much money as you possibly can. In Vacuum Warrior, you get paid for cleaning trash, allowing you to get better vacuums to clean up even more trash. And in Destroy the Planet, well, you could probably figure out what you do in Destroy the Planet. This is my favorite genre in this video, so I highly recommend you check these out. You've all likely heard about management games. That's not really obscure. But what about subgenres? There's business management, restaurant management, farm management, and many more. But one type of management game that I don't think has been explored nearly enough is world management games. You could also consider these as world simulator games. This is an obscure enough genre to the point where trying to Google for these kinds of games specifically don't actually come with any results, so it's quite a bit of digging to find some. My favorite game in this genre by far is Spore. You start out as a tiny organism and slowly evolve, growing bigger and bigger and becoming more and more technologically advanced until you're eventually traveling between planets to colonize them and take their resources. Another game on this list is OpenTTD, an open source version of the game Transport Tycoon Deluxe. This game is based around shipping resources between cities and trying to make as big of a profit as possible through building up cities, airports, train stations, and much more. Since this game is open source, the modding scene is vast, and you can be kept invested for a very long time. If you do check this game out, definitely look up a short beginner's guide video because it can be pretty daunting at first. The last game I'll mention for this genre is RimWorld. This is definitely the game that fits world management the most. You start out as a colony of 3 survivors from a starship crash. You have to build up your colony and get better and better technology, eventually meeting other humans like pirates, jungle tribes, or just other colonists. You can set up trade routes and build huge cities for your people. The amount of depth in this game is insane, as you can follow just a single colonist and watch them develop their relationships with people around them and live their daily life. Or you can go as broad as managing the entire world. Similar to the last one, this game also has a very big modding scene. Highly recommend. Moving on, we have the programming game genre, and no, by programming I don't mean typing in code and learning HTML and all that. What I mean by programming is that you set up a series of commands and then hit play, allowing those commands to play out in hopes of performing a certain task. Which kinda is coding. My favorite game in this genre is Bots Are Stupid, a precision platformer where your goal is to get this little guy to the portal right at the end. You do this by writing out a series of simple commands like move left or right, wait a certain amount of time, or jump. Technically yes, you could just sit and beat each level once and call it a day, but the premise of the game is that you're meant to speedrun each level, beating it as fast as possible. If you go by that goal, you're essentially writing a task for every level, leading to some insanely fast and precise movement if done perfectly. I honestly think this game will appeal strongest to speedrunners, so if this game looks interesting to you, definitely check it out. Robozzle is a game where you program a robot to collect stars in a maze. The ways to control the robot are super simple, being limited to move forward, turn left, and turn right. Even with these basic controls, the amount of depth you can create in the levels is crazy. You can group these commands into functions to save space in your code, or you can make commands conditional, only activating when they land on a certain color. This game is way too big brain for me personally, but there's definitely a market for it, and the player base thoroughly enjoys it. The last game I'll mention in this genre is Human Resource Machine. Made by the Tomorrow Corporation, the same creators of Little Inferno, in this game you work as a powerless office worker that's been given a job by your boss. Program a series of commands for your worker to do, finish the job, and you get promoted onto the next level for another year of hard work. As with the other Tomorrow Corporation games, the art, story, and lore are what make this game special to me, so I highly recommend. Moving on from the simple, quiet, and peaceful genre that is programming games, we have the exact opposite vibe with bullet hell games. I'm not going to include stuff like Cuphead or Enter the Gungeon because yes, while these games do feature bullet hells in later levels, and sometimes in earlier ones, these games are built around shooting and killing enemies rather than just dodging. Rockets Fucking Everywhere is a game with simple graphics entirely focused on controlling a spaceship and, you guessed it, dodging rockets. Honestly, I'm not going to have much to say about most of the games in this genre since you basically just control a character and dodge stuff, so here's some footage with the game's incredible soundtrack. Lose 95 is, in my opinion, the most unique game on this list. You play as a cursor on a computer desktop, and you're attempting to download some files. Your computer, however, is out of space and you can't continue downloading. What's the solution? Delete some files, of course. You click through your folders, deleting files and dodging the bad files that stun you, and in some cases, delete your whole computer. Line Off is the most simple game of the ones I'm showing. You control this thing, that wants to collect dust, and like the name suggests, you want to stay off the lines. There's not really an end goal, but you do unlock more colors for the game's palette depending on how much dust you collect. It's free like the other two games I showed in this genre and might keep you entertained for an hour or two. Our next genre of games is ones based around stealth. The first thing I want to mention with these is the game series Thief. You actually might have heard of one of the games in this series, simply titled Thief, which came out in 2014 to mediocre to bad reception. There's pros and cons to the game, with it being very atmospheric and the city feeling alive, but certain parts also feel very rushed or unpolished. I personally liked playing this as a kid, so if it looks cool, consider checking it out. Earlier games in the series were apparently groundbreaking, so while I haven't personally played any of those, I definitely recommend looking into them. A more recent game with a kind of similar idea is Thief Simulator and Thief Simulator 2. You play as, you guessed it, a thief that breaks into houses with the goal of stealing as much money as humanly possible. You look for valuable paintings, jewelry, and furniture, and all the while try your best not to get caught. Compared to the atmosphere in Thief 2014, this game looks a lot more simple graphically, but the gameplay is much more polished and fun. You stalk your targets and try to figure out when and where the best place to break in is. Unlike Thief 2014, I can easily recommend this game for you guys to check out and potentially play. A game that I kinda feel obligated to mention is the Hitman series. Yes, it's super popular, so I'll be brief. You play as a hitman that has to take out certain targets in whatever area you're deployed to. You can take it at your own pace, either charging in guns blazing, or like the category suggests, you can be sneaky and get rid of all your targets without ever being noticed by anyone. In some poorly made adventure or exploration games, you might hear them sometimes being described as a walking simulator. But what if that was the entire premise of the game? The Beginner's Guide is a game made by Everything Unlimited, the same studio behind the Stanley Parable. This game is much more of an experience than an actual game. You sit down at another person's computer and slowly start going through their files. You click on one, look around, and then click on another, and slowly, piece by piece, try to figure out who this person is. To quote the trailer, "Do you think this person is happy? Are they unhappy? What do you think is comfortable for this person? What puts them at ease?" I don't want to show too much of this game because it's the kind of game you have to play through yourself to get the proper experience, so definitely go check it out. The Path is a psychological horror game inspired by older versions of the Little Red Riding Hood. 6 sisters live together in an apartment in the city. One by one, their mother sends them on an errand to their grandmother whose house is deep in the forest. And they're told, most importantly, to not stray off the path. But these young women aren't exactly known for their obedience. Can they resist the temptations of the forest and prevent the ancient tale from being retold? The Path has a lot of creepy and glitchy imagery and stuff that'll just kinda make you feel icky as you play through it. Definitely check it out and consider watching some gameplay of the beginning to get a feel for it, cause it's a little odd. The last game in the walking simulator genre is Walking Simulator. Yep, it's just straight up called Walking Simulator. You play as a post carrier whose job is to bring parcels from point A to point B in the most barren and desolate places on Earth. The game is free on Steam, so I've personally checked it out, and it kind of feels almost like a well-polished shitpost with the wacky physics and weird story. Since it's free, definitely try it out and try to bask in the feeling of the wastelands that you get placed into. The last genre in this video is the second most popular one, Autobattlers. This genre gained some traction in 2021 and 2022 with the release of Super Autopets, but has existed for long before that. In Autobattlers, you set up some sort of team or gear and try to get through PvP or PvE encounters. I'll start with Super Autopets, or SAP, since it's the one that everyone knows. In SAP, you start at a shop with 10 coins. You can use these coins to either buy food, or, as you might have guessed, pets. The pets have two stats, health and damage. After you spend your money, you can click on End Turn, which initiates your first round of PvP. The game keeps a database of builds that other players have done, and you'll fight against one of the builds that matches what turn you're on, so you're not going to fight a full 5 stack of level 3 pets on round 1. If you win the round, you get a crown, and if you lose a life. The goal is to get 10 crowns before you lose all 5 lives. The depth of gameplay comes from the pet's unique abilities. Some pets will make your other ones stronger, like the blue-ringed octopus who gives your pets health and damage when you buy it. Or they can give you more pets during combat, like the sheep, who upon death will summon 2 rams of the same level. Using your 5 slots to create the best synergy is the name of the game. Backpack Battles is a game with a similar idea of PvP, but with wildly different gameplay. If you've ever heard of the game Backpack Heroes, imagine the backpack management of that game, but with the PvP of Super Autopets. You start out once again in a shop and have a few backpack slots on your left side. You can buy a variety of items ranging from food to weapons to a whole assortment of miscellaneous items, and your goal is to kill your opponent faster than they can kill you. During fights, you can slow down or speed up time, allowing you to pause and see how everything in both yours and your opponent's backpack works together, with lots of detailed stats for every item. I found this game recently through the YouTuber Ben's Backpack, and have been playing it pretty regularly, with it now being my go-to chill game for the last few months. The game is available as a demo on Steam, but think of it less as a demo and more of an early access or beta, because even the game currently is very fun and polished, so if I had to recommend to you one game in this video, it would be this one. The last game featured in this video is Snakirks, or better known as Snake RX, an auto battler based around the classic game of Snake. Unlike the last two games, this is a player versus enemy auto battler, and it's not even technically fully auto. You have to control your snake, but it's still an auto battler because you're not controlling any of the shooting. Once again, you start out in a shop. Here you can buy different colored body segments for your snake, with each one having different uses, from giving buffs to you or debuffs to your enemies, shooting different projectiles, or just straight up healing your party. The color of your segments are important, as each segment has different classes associated with it, which you can get abilities from if you get enough of the same units in that class. There's also a lot of variety in the enemies, with them exploding, or shooting lightning, or just being super powerful elites. This is also one of my favorite games in this video, and I highly recommend playing this one too. That just about wraps it up. I apologize to you all for taking so long to release another one, but I'm not going to get into why. I hope you guys all enjoyed watching, and hopefully I should have some more videos coming out faster than this one took. So once again, thank you all for watching, and have a good one.